So how do we select cover crop based on the CN ratio? Because different cover crop has different CN ratio. If you select annual legumes, it will produce plant material that are succulent and rich in proteins and sugar. It leaves very little long-term organic matter build-up effect, but it will release lots of nitrogen and sugar into the soil. If you select grain and grassy type cover crop that are non-legume, it will produce woodier or fibrous material. This is very good for soil building. In other terms, it will promote more stable soil organic matter that will slowly convert into humus. It will increase the soil structure, cation exchange capacity, but might tie up nutrients temporarily. On the other hand, if you select perennial legumes, the perennial, such as perennial peanut or white clover, the leaves will break down very quickly and it will release nitrogen quickly, but stem and root system can contribute to humus accumulation because of the high CN ratio, and so it will have the benefits of both annual and grassy non-legume cover crop. So now that we know different cover crop has different properties, how do we decide which cover crop is best for nutrient cycling? One way to decide this is looking at their carbon to nitrogen ratio. One information you need to know is that soil microbe in average has a C to N ratio of 8 to 1. So this carbon will store in the microbe bodies. An ideal microbial diet for the microbial to easy to decompose food source is 24 to 1 CN ratio. 8 carbon for the body to store in the microbial body, 16 carbon for their energy consumption. So among the cover crop, we know alfalfa hay has the closest to 24 to 1 CN ratio. It has 25 to 1 ratio, which means that it will decompose quickly but with no carbon or nitrogen accumulated in the soil. So no nitrogen will tie up, but you also don't build any carbon in the soil. On the other extreme, wheat straw has 80 to 1, so when you incorporate wheat straw into the soil, microbes will need to find additional nitrogen to consume the excess 56 carbon that they consume from the wheat straw. So this will result in nitrogen immobilization or later result in nitrogen deficiency in the soil until these microbes are being grazed by soil fauna such as mites or nematodes. Then only the nitrogen in the microbe body can release. So it's not all bad, you just need to have bigger soil fauna to decompose these microbes. On the other hand, if you use hairy wedge, which has 11 to 1 CN ratio, this will result in very fast decomposition or mineralization of nitrogen, leaving excess nitrogen in the soil, and if the plant didn't uptake it fast enough, you will result in nitrogen surplus, mobilization, and possibility leaching of the nitrogen deeper into the soil profile. But if the plants can uptake it, they will have fast nitrogen availability for the plants. A target C to N ratio that we want to aim for is 30 to 1. This will feed the residence microbe with 24 to 1 CN ratio and leaving additional carbon to feed the microbe in the soil and slowly build up soil organic matter. So what will happen if Sunham stem tissue has 48 to 1 ratio and the leaves tissue has 11 to 1? So this leads to my question for you. What will happen to the soil nutrient cycling process when Sunham residues are incorporated into the soil? A. Will the microbe consume the carbon quickly and leaving excess nitrogen in the soil? Or B. The nitrogen will be immobilized, nitrogen immobilization occurs, or both A and B will occur, or D, more A, which is more nitrogen mineralization than B will occur. So I don't have the real answer, but I would like to say that the answer is C. Both A and B will occur. In general, sunhemp has more leaf tissues than the stem tissues. So how do we design a cover crop mix? Using the information in the last slide, you want to strike a balance between cover crop residues with balanced C to N ratio, aiming for 30 to 1, so that you can have enough carbon to slow down the decomposition and provide a good coverage for soil erosion control. But a low C/N ratio will allow better nutrient cycling as well as buildup of carbon content in the soil. On the other hand, you can also rotate low C/N ratio cover crops such as leguminous cover crop like soybean, cowpea, sunhemp, clover, or brassica, radish, or mustard after a high C/N ratio cover crop like sorghum. So you can access this website to obtain a cover crop chart for Hawaii that recommend cover crop based on their growth habits, whether they are suitable to grow in colder climate, higher elevation or lower elevation, or looking at whether they are low C/N ratio or high C/N ratio, the grassy material. Or you can also look at those that has some nematode suppressive properties on the last row of crop here. So how do we mix cover crop? You can mix planting of high C/N ratio with low C/N ratio cover crop, or rotate high C/N ratio cover crop with the low C/N ratio cover crop. So here's a picture of mixed planting of bell, bean, rye, and oat, and hairy vetch is highly recommended in a cooler temperature region. Intercropping sunhemp with oats, these are more suitable for lower elevation cover crop mix. And how do we integrate insectary cover crop into our farms? You can grow them as a border crop. For example, green onion here has thrips problem, and planting buckwheat and cowpea can act as insectary plants to attract natural enemies to attack the thrips. Or you can grow it as an intercrop, as I mentioned before, growing zucchini in a strip till system of a buckwheat system. The buckwheat flowers are very attractive to hoverflies, and it will reduce the aphids population from the zucchini. They can be grown as a low living mulch or a tall living mulch, such as sunhemp intercropping with the zucchini will attract the whiteflies and distract them from getting to the zucchini. Or you can grow them as an insectary corridor. Here's a picture of a vineyard. The researchers here are growing a strip of wild insectary strip, linking the natural forest at the end of the vineyard into the vineyard's cropping system. So they will provide pollen and nectar source for the beneficial insects while the vineyard the grape plants are not producing flowers. Or you can use it as a surface organic mulch to attract spiders. That is also important natural enemies in an agroecosystem. The next question you might encounter is how do we cut back fertilizer use, knowing that cover crop can produce nitrogen that can help the farmer to reduce fertilizer use. So we have a cover crop calculator project a few years ago. The way we do it is sample above ground cover crop biomass from 1 square foot area, and you submit this subsample, 1 to 2 pound of biomass sample, send it to a lab to do nitrogen analysis and estimate the cover crop dry biomass. One lab that you can send locally is Agricultural Diagnostic Service Center at UH. Then you can go to the cover crop calculator that is available at this website, and using the cover crop mineralization rates to estimate how much return of plant available nitrogen can be generated from the cover crop you grow. Because Not all cover crop contain the same amount of nitrogen, and not all nitrogen from the cover crop can be mineralized into plant available form. Plant available nitrogen is nitrate nitrogen. So using this calculator, it will estimate how much plant available form of nitrogen is available from your cover crop. So how does cover crop protect human health? It can reduce non-point source pollution because of the reduce of synthetic fertilizer use, reduce of pesticide use, and also adding more organic matter filter more pollutants. It reduces pesticide use, reduce fertilizer inputs, and thus reduce excess nitrogen leach into the groundwater. It will sequester carbon from the air into the ground, contribute to mitigation of greenhouse gas, and by sustaining soil health, it will ensure more food security. Restoration of poor soil. So here are all the information I have for you for cover cropping. For more information, you can access my website at Sustainable Pest Management Lab or CITA SOAP website or Western SARE website. Mahalo for listening.